Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you today. You know, there's something powerful about understanding how God works in our lives. I believe we're all on a journey, and sometimes we wonder, why isn't it happening yet? Why do I have to wait? But let me tell you something. Waiting is not a waste. Waiting is preparation, and today we're going to talk about 7 signs. Have you ever felt like you just don't belong where you are anymore? Have you ever woken up and thought, this can't be it? There has to be more to my life than this. If you've been feeling unsettled, uncomfortable, or out of place, congratulations. That very feeling might be one of the clearest signs that God is preparing you for something greater. You see, we often mistake discomfort for something negative. But in reality, discomfort is one of God's most powerful tools in our lives. Think about it for a moment. If you were comfortable in your situation, if everything was just fine, you would probably never change, you would never grow, and you would never move into the new season God is calling you to. So feeling unsettled is not a bad thing. It's a sign that God is stirring something up within you. There are seasons in life when things seem to lose their meaning. You begin to question your purpose, your relationships, your career, your calling. You feel like you've outgrown your environment, and suddenly you're not sure why you're still there. You're asking questions like, why does everything feel so off right now? Why am I so restless? What if I told you that restlessness is a clue? It's a divine sign. When God is preparing you for something new, He often creates a sense of discomfort. He shakes things up in your life so you stop being complacent and start paying attention. If everything in your life were smooth and easy, you'd never have the motivation to reach for the next level. Let's think about the people in the Bible who experienced this kind of unsettling. Abraham was comfortable in his home, living in his familiar surroundings. Yet God said, leave your home, leave your family. Go to a land that I will show you. Abraham had to leave the familiar and venture into the unknown. Why? Because God had something bigger for him. His discomfort and unsettlement were signs of God preparing him for a destiny that was far beyond his wildest dreams. The same goes for the Israelites. They were enslaved in Egypt for over 400 years. They were comfortable in their routine, even if it was painful, and many were settled in their misery. But God had heard their cries and was preparing to deliver them. He allowed the discomfort, the oppression, to reach a point where they could no longer ignore the need for change. When the time was right, God led them out of Egypt, and though the journey was difficult, it was the only way they would step into the promise He had for them. Think about your own life. Sometimes we get so comfortable in our routines, in our relationships, or even in our disappointments that we stop believing that something better is possible. But when God is preparing you for something new, He will allow you to feel unsettled. He doesn't want you to settle for less than what He has for you. He wants you to get uncomfortable enough to step out of the old and into the new. This unsettled feeling isn't a sign that something is wrong with you. It's a sign that something is changing. It's a sign that God is waking you up from complacency, calling you to step out of the familiar and urging you to trust Him as He leads you to your next chapter. The reason why you're feeling uncomfortable right now might be because you've reached the end of what your current situation can offer you. God has allowed you to grow and stretch to the point where you can no longer stay where you are. You're too big for the space you're in, too talented, too gifted, too anointed to stay in a place that's not going to bring out the fullness of who you are. It's in the unsettled places that God often does His deepest work. Think about the butterfly. It has to be uncomfortable inside the cocoon before it can break free and spread its wings. In the same way, God is allowing you to feel that discomfort because He's preparing you to spread your wings and fly into a new season of blessing. You're being molded, refined, and shaped into something new, something greater. So instead of resisting the discomfort, instead of wishing things would go back to normal, embrace it. Recognize that this feeling of unsettledness is not a curse, it's an invitation. It's God's way of telling you that a new door is about to open. It's His way of saying, I've got something better in store for you. Stay with me, trust me. When you feel unsettled, don't run from it. Don't drown it out with distractions. Lean into it. Ask God, what are you teaching me right now? What are you trying to show me? God doesn't waste moments of discomfort. Every season of unsettlement is a stepping stone toward your destiny. Remember this. Discomfort is the birthplace of transformation. It's the place where your old self dies and your new self rises. Embrace the unsettled feeling. Know that it's not a punishment, but a divine preparation for the blessings that are coming your way. Let's get real for a moment. How many of you are feeling like you're under more pressure than ever before? How many of you feel like life has taken a sudden shift and you're facing challenges you didn't see coming? Maybe it's a health crisis, financial strain, relationship struggles, or even internal battles that are weighing you down. But what if I told you that those tests, those struggles, those challenges are not signs that you're being abandoned? No, they are signs that God is preparing you for something bigger. You're being tested because God is trying to take you to the next level. When God is preparing you to receive blessings, He will often allow you to be tested in ways you've never been tested before. The test might be difficult, overwhelming, and at times even unfair. But here's what you need to understand. Tests are not setbacks. They are setups for the blessings you're about to receive. If you've ever gone through a season where it felt like every part of your life was being shaken, your faith, your patience, your strength, your relationships, then you're in the right place. You might even thought to yourself, why is this happening? Why is it so hard? Why can't things just go smoothly for once? And I get it. We all ask those questions. But the reality is that these tests are not random. They are part of God's plan to equip you for the blessing He has on the other side. Think about it. Anytime someone is being prepared for something significant, they face tests. In school, when you're about to graduate, you take exams to prove you're ready for the next phase of your life. The same goes for life. Every time God is about to promote you, He will put you through a test to see if you're truly ready for the blessing that's coming. Let's look at a few examples from the Bible. Take Job, for instance. Job was a man who had everything: wealth, family, status, respect. But then, in a matter of days, he lost it all. His wealth was stripped away, his children died, and his health was destroyed. It seemed like his life was falling apart. Yet Job's test was not an accident. It was part of a divine plan. Through his testing, Job's faith was refined, and he came out on the other side with even greater blessings than he had before. Then think about David. He was anointed as king while he was just a young shepherd boy. Yet, after his anointing, David didn't immediately walk into the palace. Instead, he faced years of running for his life, being pursued by King Saul and hiding in caves. He was tested in ways that seemed impossible. But through those years of trials, God was building David's character, testing his patience, humility, and trust in him. The tests were preparing David for the throne. When the time came, David wasn't just ready for the crown, he was equipped to rule with wisdom and understanding. And of course, think about Jesus himself. Even Jesus had to endure tests before entering his ministry. He spent 40 days in the wilderness, fasting and being tempted by the devil. Jesus was tested in ways that no one could ever imagine, and through those tests, he gained victory over the enemy and set the example for us on how to trust God in the toughest of circumstances. You see, When you're being tested in ways you've never been tested before, it's a sign that God is doing something deep inside of you. He's refining your character. He's shaping your heart. He's building your endurance, your capacity, and your trust in Him. The tests might seem unbearable at times, but trust me, they're designed to strengthen you for the new season of blessings He's preparing you for. Let's break this down a little further. Tests come in many forms. It could be a test of patience, when you've been waiting for something for what feels like forever, and you start to wonder, is God even listening? Or it could be a test of faith, when things don't make sense and you have to decide if you're going to continue trusting God even though you can't see the outcome. Sometimes it's a test of your character, when you're faced with a situation where you could either take the easy way out or do the right thing, and God is watching to see if you'll stay true to His word. In these moments, it's easy to think, why me? Why now? But remember this, God does not test you to break you. He tests you to build you. Every test is a stepping stone toward something greater. Every challenge is an opportunity to grow stronger, to deepen your faith, and to prove that you are ready for the blessings that are on the other side. Now, I know it doesn't always feel that way. Sometimes, when you're in the midst of the test, it feels like it's too much, but God promises that He will never allow you to be tested beyond what you can handle. In Corinthians 10:13, He says, "No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind, and God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear." So, when you're facing a test, remind yourself of this truth. God knows you can handle it. He knows you have the strength, the resilience, and the faith to get through it, and He's right there with you every step of the way. Here's the secret. Your test is proof that God sees something in you that you don't even see in yourself yet. He knows the potential inside of you. He knows the greatness that He has placed within you, and He's allowing this test to bring that greatness to the surface. So, what should you do when you're being tested? Don't run from it. Don't resist it. Embrace it. Allow God to do His work in you. And when the test is over, you'll look back and see that you've grown stronger, wiser, and more prepared for the incredible blessings that are coming your way. Let's talk about isolation for a moment. I'm not talking about being alone for a few hours here and there. I'm talking about feeling like you're in a season where you've been cut off from the world around you. Maybe you feel like people don't understand you anymore, or you've lost connections with those you used to be close to. You feel distant, not only from others, but from the things you used to find comforting. And let's be honest, this kind of isolation can feel heavy. It can feel confusing, even painful. You may start to ask yourself, why am I in this place? Why does it seem like I'm alone when I need others the most? But I want to tell you something very important today. This season of isolation may not be a curse. It could be God's preparation for your next blessing. We live in a world that glorifies connection. We have social media, instant messaging, texting, and so many ways to stay in touch. But sometimes the deeper work that God wants to do in our hearts can only happen in solitude. Sometimes the greatest breakthroughs happen in the moments when we are separated from the noise and distractions of the world. In this season of isolation, God is doing something deep inside of you. It may feel like you've been abandoned, but the truth is that God is pulling you aside, away from the distractions, so He can speak directly to your spirit. This is the season when He's refining you, healing you, preparing you to receive something greater than you've ever imagined. Let's go back to the Bible for a moment. Look at Moses. God called Moses to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. But before Moses could step into that leadership role, God took him into the wilderness. For 40 years, Moses was isolated in the desert, far from the people, far from Egypt, far from anything familiar. It seemed like a time of waiting, but it was actually a time of preparation. Moses had to be alone with God in the desert so that he could hear clearly, be shaped by God's will, and be equipped to lead a nation. If we look at David, we see another story of isolation. Before he was anointed as king, David was out in the fields, alone, tending sheep. He was isolated from his family and from the world. In that place of solitude, David learned how to trust God. He learned how to protect the flock, how to worship, and how to fight battles. It was in that isolated place that David's heart was prepared for the throne. When he was called to step into leadership, David wasn't just anointed to be king, he was equipped and shaped for it by his season of isolation. Even Jesus himself, the Son of God, spent time in isolation. After he was baptized, he spent 40 days and nights in the wilderness, fasting and praying. During this time, he was tempted by the devil, and he had to strengthen himself in God's word. Why did Jesus go through this? It wasn't because he was being punished. It was because he was being prepared. It was in the wilderness that Jesus was able to align himself fully with God's will, and in that place of isolation, he was strengthened and empowered to do the work that lay ahead. You see, isolation is not about abandonment. It's about preparation. God allows these seasons of solitude in our lives because he wants to bring us closer to him, strip away the distractions, and teach us to rely on him alone. In these seasons, we often experience personal growth that can only happen when we're not depending on others for our strength, our joy, or our validation. God is teaching you to draw strength directly from him. He's teaching you how to be content with him, to find peace in his presence, and to recognize that his voice is the most important one you'll ever hear. Now, I know what you're thinking, but it's hard. It feels lonely. I don't know what to do with this silence. Trust me, I get it. It's one thing to be alone, but it's another thing to be isolated in your spirit. But don't forget this. In the isolation, God is not distant. He is very near. Sometimes, when you feel most alone, it's actually when God is closest to you. Remember that when you are in the wilderness, when you feel you've been forgotten, God is using the solitude to draw you into a deeper relationship with him. He's teaching you how to hear his voice more clearly. He's preparing you for the next season of your life, where you will be called to serve and lead. If you're feeling isolated right now, it's not the end of your story. It's simply the preparation for what God is about to do next. Think about it this way. God is like a master sculptor. When he is shaping you, he often has to separate you from the distractions that keep you from seeing his vision for your life. Isolation is the chisel. It's not easy. It's not comfortable, but it's necessary. The deeper the chisel goes, the more the masterpiece takes shape. Let me remind you of something else. The wilderness is where God reveals who you really are. When you're alone with him, you begin to see things in yourself you never knew were there. You discover the strength, courage, and resilience you never thought you had. And even though it's uncomfortable, even though you're asking, "Why am I here?" you can rest assured that this is the very place where God is revealing your true potential. So if you're in a season of isolation, don't rush out of it. Don't try to fill the silence with distractions or chase after people who aren't meant to be in your life right now. Instead, embrace this moment. God is doing something in you. This time of solitude is preparing you for the next phase of your life. You're not alone. You're being made ready. Trust that God is with you in this season. He's teaching you, refining you, and getting you ready to walk into a new season of blessing. When the time is right, he will release you from this season of isolation, and you will step into a future that is far more fulfilling than anything you've known before. Let's talk about something that is often difficult, but absolutely necessary when you're stepping into a new season: letting go of what's holding you back. This is a pivotal moment in your journey, a moment when God is preparing you to receive his blessings and move into a new chapter of your life. But before you can embrace the blessings He has for you, you must be willing to release what's keeping you stuck in the past. Let me ask you a question. What is it that you're holding on to right now? What is it that you're afraid to let go of? Maybe it's a relationship that's no longer serving you, but you're too afraid to walk away. Maybe it's a hurt from the past that you've carried around like a heavy backpack, unable to forgive and let go. Maybe it's a dream or a plan that you've been holding on to, but deep down, you know it's not the direction God is calling you toward anymore. Here's the thing. You can't move forward into God's best for you while you're still holding on to what's holding you back. The more tightly you cling to what's in your past, the harder it becomes to step into the future God is preparing for you. And I want you to hear this clearly. Letting go is not about giving up. It's about making room for God to bring something better into your life. Think about it. In order to receive something new, you need to empty your hands first. You can't grab onto a new blessing if your hands are full of old baggage. You can't embrace the new opportunities that God is opening for you if you're still carrying around the hurts, disappointments, and fears of the past. And this isn't just about physical things. It's about emotional and spiritual baggage as well. The longer you hold on to things that no longer serve you, the more you're blocking the flow of blessings that God is trying to pour into your life. Let me give you a powerful example from the Bible. Abraham. God promised Abraham that he would be the father of many nations. But before Abraham could step into that promise, there was something he had to let go of. His own idea of how the promise would be fulfilled. He had to let go of the control he had over his life, his plans, and his timing. Abram had to release the idea of having a child with Sarah on his own terms and instead trust God's timing, even though it didn't make sense at the time. God's promise was always greater than Abraham's plan, but he had to let go of his own understanding first. Similarly, Moses had to let go of his past in Egypt in order to fulfill his destiny as the deliverer of the Israelites. Moses had grown up in the palace, but after he fled to the desert, he had to let go of his identity as the prince of Egypt. He had to surrender the security of his position, his reputation, and his comfort, and it wasn't easy. It was a painful process for Moses to let go of the old life he once knew, but only by releasing the past could he step into the future that God had prepared for him.